Hello everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be trying something a little new. So I will be reading from a bunch of different books that I found in my room. 6 different books, and we'll see what we have in them. I'm going to be reading either like excerpts, little bits of chapters, just little bits of the books, and see how that goes. How's that sound? I hope you guys enjoy. To start, I have the World Encyclopedia of Fossils and Fossil Collecting. I am not actually a fossil collector. I just own this book because I thought it was cool and just thought it was a neat little book. But let's see what I flip to. Let me actually close my eyes. We flip to animals and vertebrates. Vertebrate creatures have a vertebral column or backbone separating inverts and verts. However, a more scientific definition relies on the presence of a notochord, a stiffened rod-like structure along the back, envisaged as a evolutionary forerunner of the vertebral column. The phylum, major animal group Chordata, includes vertebrates plus some vertebrateless but notochord-possessing creatures known as Eurychordates, Hemichordates, and Cephalochordates. Traditionally, vertebrates have comprised 5 major classes: fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals. DNA and cladistic analysis have fragmented these into numerous subgroups. For example, fossil creatures once known as the first amphibians are now commonly called tetrapods, 4-legged or 4-footed. And then it has some pictures of just different fossils. Let's see what it says. Above from left, head of Hoplopteryx. Detail from Hurricotherium tooth. Fossil of an ancient bat. Polyarchaeopteryx. Showing one of the wings folded over the backbone. That's that page right there. I'm not sure if you can see that too well, but it's definitely a neat book. Gonna flip to one more section and see what we get, because that was just like a beginning of a section. Flowering plants, angiosperms. The angiosperms include most flowers, herbs, shrubs, vines, grasses, and blossom-producing broad-leaved trees. The presence of flowers and seeds enclosed in fruits. Angiosperm means seed and receptacle. Differentiate them from gymnosperms, such as conifers. That's basically like a pine tree, where it has the pine cones. There are 2 great groups of angiosperms: monocotyledons and dicotyledons. Monocot means they have 1 cotyledon or seed leaf in the seed. Then it has phragmites, sabal, Bavalstia, and Pabiana. Start with phragmites, which is a reed. The genus Phragmites is well known today around the world as the common reed or marsh grass P. australis. Tall and tough. In some regions, it grows higher than 5 meters or 16.5 feet, and its dense, tangled rootstock spreads rapidly. Phragmites fringes not only lakes and slow rivers, but also has a brackish water. Also likes brackish water and is regarded in many areas as an invasive pest. It has stout, unbranched stems and long, slim leaves with bases that sheath over the stem as it grows. The soft, feathery flower heads are a shiny purple-brown color. The dried stems are cut for many purposes, including roof thatching. Phragmites fossils are among the most common plant remains in some localities, especially from the Miocene epoch to recent times. Reeds, grasses, and rushes are placed in the large Monocotyledon family Gramineae. Not bad. Then we have the sabal palm trees, family Palmae or Ericaceae, are familiar in many warmer regions and are known for their wood, frond-type leaves, and nut-like or juicy seeds that produce oil, starch, and other useful materials, as well as providing edible dates and coconuts. It's tasty. A typical palm has an unbranched, almost straight trunk covered in ring, arc, or scale-like scars where leaf bases were once attached. The trunk cannot grow thicker like most other trees, but remains almost the same diameter to the crown of frond-like leaves, which may be fan-like, feathery, or fern-like. Palm fossils of genera such as sabal and Palmoxylon, are known from the late Cretaceous period, 80 plus million years ago. By the early Tertiary period, 60 million years ago, they were evolving fast. And living genera such as Phoenix, date palms, and Nipa, mangrove palms, had appeared. There are hundreds of extinct species and more than 2,700 living ones. Bivalstia. Bivalstia was possibly one of the first flowering plants to have appeared on the Earth. It dates back to early Cretaceous period, some 130 to 125 million years ago. The plant had an enigmatic combination of features, with leaves that had a vascular system, tube-like network, similar to those of ferns and mosses, together with angiosperm-like buds and flower-like features. Bivalstia was likely to have been a delicate, herbaceous, non-woody plant. Despite its fragile nature, however, it has been found in abundance in the fossil record, suggesting that it grew very near to its burial sites, which were possibly quiet lakes or swamp bottoms. If this is accurate, then Bivalstia probably had an aquatic way of life, perhaps similar to today's kabamba or fanwort pond in aquarium plants. Some of the first specimens of Bivalstia were collected in the 1990s as part of the studies of the fish-eating dinosaur baryonyx being carried out at London's Natural History Museum. Then the last one on the page, which is Pabiana. Pabiana is usually regarded as a Cretaceous member of the Magnolias family Magnoliaceae. They are among the first flowering trees to evolve in the early to middle Cretaceous period. The group still has about 80 to 120 living species, mostly distributed in warmer parts of the Americas and Asia. Although many similar flowers are usually associated with pollination by bees, magnolias evolved their large blossoms well before the appearance of bees. Instead, they are pollinated by beetles. Because of this, the bloom is quite tough and fossilizes very well, that is, compared with other flowers. The primitive aspect of magnolias is their lack of, or combination of, depending on the point of view, distinct petals or sepals. The name tepal has been coined to describe the intermediate structures in magnolias, which look like the petals of other flowers. The original specimens of Pabiana were discovered at Rose Creek Quarry near Fairbury, Nebraska, USA in 1968 by a team of American paleontologists, including Roger K. Pabian, who was actually searching for fossil invertebrates. The genus was named after him in 1990. That's it for the fossils book. Let's see what we have next. The U.S. Constitution and Other Writings. This book makes a nice noise, and it has the gold trim on the side. See what we flip to. Don't want to read read the whole Constitution. Close my eyes and see what we flip to. Right there. Ooh, classic. Emancipation Proclamation. President Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, drafted in 1862 and delivered on January 1st of the next year, officially freed all slaves in states rebelling against the Union. As Northern troops assumed control of Southern areas, the proclamation took effect. By the President of the United States of America, a proclamation. Whereas on the 22nd day of September AD 1862, a proclamation was issued by the President of the United States containing, among other things, the following, to wit: that on the first day of January AD 1863, all persons held as slaves within any state or designated part of a state, the people whereof shall then be in rebellion against the United States, shall be then, thenceforward, and forever free. The executive government of the United States, including the military and naval authority thereof, will recognize and maintain the freedom of such persons, and will not do act or acts to repress such persons, or any of them, in any efforts they may make for their actual freedom. That the executive will, that the executive will, on the first day of January aforesaid, by proclamation designate the states and parts of the states, if any, in which the people thereof, respectively, shall then be in rebellion against the United States, and the fact that any state or the people thereof shall on that day be in good faith represented in the Congress in the United States by members chosen thereto at elections wherein a majority of the qualified voters of such states shall have participated, shall, in the absence of strong countervailing testimony, be deemed conclusive evidence that such state and the people thereof are not then in rebellion against the United States. Wow. Before I continue, Abraham Lincoln really liked his run-on sentences. Now, therefore, I, Abraham Lincoln, President of the United States, by virtue of the power in me vested as Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy of the United States in time of actual armed rebellion against the authority and government of the United States, and as a fit and necessary war measure for suppressing said rebellion, due on this first day of January A.D. 1863, and in accordance with my purpose to do so, publicly proclaimed for the full period of 100 days from the first day above mentioned. Order and designate as the states and parts of the states wherein the people thereof respectively are this day in rebellion against the United States the following, to wit: Arkansas, Texas, Louisiana, except the parishes of St. Bernard, Plaquemines, Jefferson, St. John, St. Charles, St. James, Assumption, Terrebonne, Lafourche, St. Mary's, St. Martin, and Orleans, including the city of New Orleans, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia, except the 48 counties designated as West Virginia, and also the counties of Berkeley, Accomack, Northampton, Elizabeth City, York, Princess Anne, and Norfolk, including the cities of Norfolk and Portsmouth, in which accepted parts are for the present left precisely as if this proclamation were not issued. And by virtue of the power and for the people and for the purpose aforesaid, I do order and declare that all persons held as slaves within said designated states and parts of states are, and henceforward shall be, free, and that the executive government of the United States, including the military and naval authorities thereof, will recognize and maintain the freedom of said persons. And I hereby enjoin upon the people so declared to be free, to abstain from all violence unless in necessary self-defense, and I recommend to them that, in all cases when allowed, they labor faithfully for reasonable wages. And I further declare and make known that such persons of suitable condition will be received into the armed service of the United States to garrison forts, positions, stations, and other places, and to man vessels of all sorts in said service. And upon this act, sincerely believed to be an act of justice warranted by the Constitution upon military necessity, I invoke the considerate judgment of mankind and the gracious Father of Almighty God. That is it for this book and the Emancipation Proclamation. That's a solid read right there. Let's see what we have next. Where the Sidewalk Ends by Shel Silverstein. I've also owned this book for quite a while, but let's see what we flip to. Close my eyes and see. Or not see, I guess. We flip to The Dirtiest Man in the World. Oh, I'm Dirty Dan, the world's dirtiest man. I have never taken a shower. I can't see my shirt, it's so covered with dirt, and my ears have enough to grow flowers. But the water is either a little too hot or else it's a little too cold. I'm musty and dusty and patchy and scratchy and mangy and covered with mold. But the water is always a little too hot or else it's a little too cold. I live in a pen with 5 hogs and a hen and 3 squizzly wizards who creep in my bed as they itch as I squirm and I twitch in the cruddy old sheets that I sleep in. If you look down my throat with a flashlight, you know that my insides are coated with rust. I creak when I walk and I squeak when I talk, and each time I sneeze I blow dust. The thought of a towel and some soap makes me howl, and when people have something to tell me, they don't come and tell it, they stand back and yell it. I think they're afraid they might smell me. The bedbugs that leap on me sing me to sleep, and the garbage flies buzz me awake. They're the best friends I've found, and I fear they might drown, so I never go near a lake. Each evening at 9, I sit down to dine with the termites who live in my chair, and I joke with the bats who have intimate chats with the cooties who crawl through my hair. I'd brighten my life if I just found a wife, but I fear that never will be until I can find a girl gentle and kind, with a beautiful face and sensitive mind, who sparkles and twinkles and glistens and shines, who's almost as dirty as me. Wow. Insightful. Let's see what we've got next. Got the United States of America. I had this book since I was a kid, so I think this is definitely made for kids. But even though it's made for kids, it still has good information. Let's see what we flip to. Iowa, which is known as the Hawkeye State. The state bird is the goldfinch. Quote by Frank Chapman, who's a birder: they circle over the fields, sowing the air with music. The Missouri and Mississippi rivers are major waterfowl migration routes for thousands of birds in spring and fall. Endangered species, which is the Iowa Pleistocene snail, which has lived in a cool, moist ground for over 300,000 years. State tree is the oak, and it is common in Iowa's river valleys. The state flower is the wild rose. The state insect is the ladybug. The red delicious apple came from shoots of a lightning-struck tree in the 1800s in East Peru, Iowa. Iowa is mostly rich farmland, leading the nation in raising hogs and growing corn. Not bad. Let's see what's on this next page. Kansas. Kansas leads the nation in wheat production, making it the breadbasket of the world. Since trees were scarce, early settlers built sod homes Interesting. Endangered species. Black-capped vireos once thrived on bushy slopes. They no longer breed in Kansas. I wouldn't either. Amelia Earhart from Atchison was the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean. Kansas now leads the world in aircraft production. State tree is the cottonwood, and it lines the rivers. I'm sure you've all seen cottonwood. I believe that's the trees where it has those little white fluff balls, especially if you're like in the Midwest of America. I'm sure you've seen those. More tornadoes occur in Kansas than any other state. Thousands of longhorn cattle were driven from Texas to Kansas. Hold up. Thousands of longhorn cattle were driven from Texas to Kansas railroad stations. That's an odd sentence. State bird. Meadowlarks hide their nests in prairie grasses where millions of buffalo once roamed. State insect is the honeybee. The state flower is the sunflower. Good to know. Got 2 books left. Let's see what we got here. Got the, one sec. American Wildlife Illustrated. You can hardly see it there, but got this book from the library, but if I'm not mistaken, this thing is old. Oh yeah, right on the inside right there. 591, 1947. Wow. So this book is an antique. 1947. So it means this book is 2025 now. So this book is 78. Wow. This book's older than some people. Let's see what page I flip to. Spotted newts. Oh, one sec. Interesting. Okay, let's start there. Newt. Throughout the eastern United States, the crimson-colored spotted newt lives in quiet streams and ponds. When fully grown, these small salamanders are about 3 inches long. Colored in olive or yellow-green with black-bordered crimson spots lining each side. They are better known, however, in their larval stage. These red efts, as they are then called, a brilliant coral color and are often seen after rains or on foggy mornings crossing paths or leaf-strewn glades. At this stage, nests are almost entirely terrestrial. Later, when mature, they return to water. In April and May, newts breed in the water. The male may be recognized by the swollen base of his tail and his stocky hind legs, which are stouter than the forelegs. Thick black ridges of skin color the inner surfaces of the hind legs during the breeding season, while the tail fin and cloaca become larger. What in the world? One sec. Looks like they're going through their whole thing. I should say it right. Looks like they're going through their entire mating thing. Gripping the female with his hind legs, the male touches his cheek to the snout of the female. The secretions from his cheek glands serve to quiet the female. Later, when he deposits the spermatophores on submerged leaves, these secretions even compel her to follow him. Then she lays her eggs on submerged vegetation or stones. The female will wrap the single eggs in leaves where available, spherical in shape. Each egg is enclosed in an oval mass of jelly. When the larvae hatch out, they have branching gills and fish-like tails. Changing from green to red in the fall, these little newts lose their gills, which are replaced by lungs, and then they are ready for the terrestrial existence over their next few years. They frequently migrate from their ponds to winter on land. A migration of spotted newts was recorded on October 3rd, 1937 in Massachusetts. Apparently, Thousands of these small creatures were attempting to scale a dam to reach a small pond. In some regions, they do not have the water at all, or do not leave the water at all, my bad. In all, there are 4 species of newts in this country, 2 in the eastern states, 1 in the south, and 1 in the west. The western newt is known as the water dog. The skin of the male western newt is much smoother and thicker than that of the female. Well, what a book, I must say. One moment, guys. And then our last book is The Walking Dead, Book 9. This book might be a little vulgar or gory. If it is, I'm sure it is. And if you guys have like a sensitivity to it at all, like you just don't like gore or swearing or anything, please click off the video now. If you don't mind swearing or gore, continue watching at your leisure. Let's see what we flip to. Oh, I haven't read this in years. This is Rick speaking. I'm not Rick. The character is Rick. Rick says, "You weren't on the road. You didn't see them. You weren't surrounded by them. You didn't have to watch helplessly as they. You just weren't there. Negan decided to send a message to us. He held us at bay, threatened our lives. He said we had to be punished. Chose one of us at random, just pointed at us until he picked Glenn. I watched as he took his baseball bat and caved in Glenn's skull, smashed his head to bits. When he was done, he'd acted like he'd done nothing more than play a game. Life he took meant nothing to him. He could have done that to any of us. He could come here and do that to all of us, and that terrifies me. We're up against something unlike anything we've faced thus far. A group large enough to attack 2 separate places at one time. A group strong enough to intimidate multiple other communities into sharing supplies, one of which is at least 3 times our size. Thought we could handle these saviors. I was wrong. Conflict with this group could result in the death of us all. So there will be no conflict. We will give the saviors what they want. We will not fight back in any way, and we will live in peace. Understood?" Then the character Jesus says, "They'll understand eventually." Rick then says, "Yeah, pack up now." That's Rick saying to Jesus. While everyone is distracted, hit the road before it's too hard to catch up to him. I need to know what we're up against. Find out everything you can about Negan and his people. And remember, for their sake, no one can know what we're really doing here. Well, that didn't have too much swearing or gore or anything. That was a spoiler, though, if you have never seen the TV show. I think that's it. Yeah, I read it all, a little bit of each book to you guys. I hope you all enjoyed that very much. I enjoyed it. I got to learn more about spotted newts in Iowa and Kansas, and more about the Emancipation Proclamation, and more about fossils. So, hey, it's an experience for us both. Anyways, I thank you all so much for watching this video. It really means a lot to me. If you did enjoy it, please make sure to like and subscribe if you would like to see more like this. And anyways, I'll see you all next time. Have a wonderful sleep, everybody.